Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I have done something slightly different. I'm interviewing one of my friends, Josh, who recently completed a bicycle ride from our hometown of Aberdeen in Scotland to Holland. And I thought it'd be really cool to interview him and ask him about some of the skills and mindset that he learned along the way that can help other people in overcoming hardships and adversity and working towards goals and achievements. However, during the interview, we had some slight technical issues. I was screen recording our Skype interview and the program that I was using cut out. Luckily, I had my phone close to hand and I was able to record the rest of the interview, and the slight bit that gets missed out was just Josh talking about the logistics of organising the trip, which actually ended up not being that much anyway. So you've not missed any of the really juicy, insightful information. So without further ado, watch the video. I hope you enjoy it. Apologies for the really awkward editing in the middle and the switch over from video audio to just audio. But I hope you get some real good tips and advice out of it. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, love inwardly and shine outwardly. David. Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we have something a little different. As you can see, I have a friend on the line with me. This is my mate Josh. He's one of my oldest and closest friends. We go way back. And the reason I've got him on the channel today is because he did something pretty damn cool recently. He cycled from our hometown of Aberdeen to Europe. How far did you get again, Josh?
I got to Utrecht, which is like in the middle of Holland.
So yeah, pretty damn far on his bike, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later. But first, I'll just give Josh a little introduction. So me and Josh went to school together. He left at 16 to go and join the RAF regiment. When he got there, found out it wasn't quite for him, so he came back and you did the gap year with your church. You were working for the church. And then after that, there was the job in the cheese shop.
And cheese business as well, don't forget. Cheese and wine.
Yeah, cheese and wine business. And then you went back to college to do sports science. And now you're working in a bike shop, which is obviously related to what we're going to talk about. I think that's covered all the bases of your quirky employment history.
Yeah, I don't work in the bike shop anymore. I work in like a Cotswolds outdoor activity kind of shop.
Oh, right, sweet. And we were just talking before we went on air, actually. Josh is somewhat of an amateur DJ. Well, not even amateur. He's playing nightclubs now. He's he's making waves up in Aberdeen. So, Josh, let's launch into talking about your biking. And my first question to you is, how did you get into biking?
I think I've always kind of enjoyed it, but when the fire started was when I was living in Cults, which is like 6 miles away from the city centre in Aberdeen. And I just started biking in and out of Aberdeen when I was working. And that really started the fire. Then I moved back home in Drummock, which is another 10 miles away. So I started that commute, and then I really started to get really into it. Bought myself a carbon fibre road bike. And then after that, it's all been kind of history, really.
Cool. So how long would that commute into work take you on the bike?
From Drummock, 45 minutes on average, but I've done it in 35 minutes before.
Oh, not showing off or anything. But no, like people say that they don't have time in their lives to exercise, but you've just shown you incorporated that into your work day, and 35 minutes commute, that's a lot less than some people's commutes. People working in London and stuff, sometimes they have a 2-hour commute. So it definitely goes to show you can fit in exercise around your life. And like you said, you were cycling a good 10 15 miles like there and back, and that that's a great piece of exercise in a relatively short amount of time. So do you have anything about biking that you would recommend to people? Like, how has it impacted you and kind of benefited your life?
But I think cycling, obviously, for me, is the best sport in the world. You know, better than football, better than rugby. It's benefited me in so many ways, I would say. I can count them probably with two hands, but I'll go through the main ones. I think one, it keeps you fit. Obviously, it's a really good way. It's a low impact way on your knees. Like I used to have really bad knees, and ever since I started cycling, all the knee pain is gone because it's kind of supported all my like muscles around my knees. Another big one is obviously it's a lot of fun. I think it's going really fast down a hill is a very fun thing to do. Another thing is I can eat as much food as I want. You know, if I do enough cycling, I can eat as many donuts, as many cinnamon share buns as I want. You know, because it's not going to get burnt away. But definitely the best thing for me, I would say, is when you're on the bike. For me, anyway, all my kind of problems of the world just kind of get pushed by the wayside. It's just me, the bike, and the road, and that's all that matters at that point in time. And you know, it's a really good way of just kind of relieving stress. And also, you can think about what you want to do in life. You know, you can think about all the things that are going on as well. And yeah, I think that's probably the best thing I would say.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of interesting points there, like talking about your first one, how it's helped your joint health. Many people don't exercise because they're like, oh, I've got a dodgy back, I've got a dodgy knee, but exercise for you has actually helped with those problems. And like it goes to show, like often we have these problems because we're not using our bodies enough and we're not using them in the right ways. I mean, look at the pair of us. We're sitting at our desks right now, and that is, life for a lot of people. They just spend all their time sitting at their desk in bad. In fact, I'm kind of like wary of like how I'm sitting just now. Like I'm slumped over. I've got a bad posture, and many of people's problems come from inactivity rather than too much activity. And then I think the third point you brought up, well, actually the second point made me laugh because the first time I ever met Josh, he'd actually gone down a hill too fast and gone over his handlebars and broken his collarbone. So that made me chuckle. And then your third point about just being you and the bike and you and the cycling, and that's a stress reliever for you. And one of the things I'm quite into at the moment is mindfulness and kind of learning to be in the present moment and to shut out distractions and things that have been going on for you in the day. And biking is a great way to practice mindfulness because you're just absorbed in the action of pedaling and holding the handlebars and just going along the road. And what have you felt? Have you felt that the individual aspect to cycling has really benefited you? You talked about kind of football and rugby, like team sports. Do you feel that because biking is such an individual thing, that's given you some benefit or some positive effect?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought about this quite a lot when I was on my trip, and one of the things I really like about cycling is that no matter what you do, no matter how slow or fast you go, you're always achieving something. You're always, even if you only go for 30 minutes, you're still getting somewhere. You're still going from A to B. So, comparing that to rugby and football, you can play rugby all your life. And obviously you'll achieve some things, but sometimes you'll have really bad days. You'll never score a try. Your team won't win. And you won't necessarily achieve everything you wanted to. Whereas cycling, no matter what you do, no matter how slow you go, you're always achieving something. And I think that's really the best thing about it, really. And yeah, I would say, there's a lot of kind of, not pride, but really happiness when you achieve something on a bike. You do like 100 miles in one day. That's a great sense of achievement. So it's every minute you're riding, you're achieving something. So that's probably the best thing I think about it.
Definitely, I think that's a great analogy for life. Like I've seen a saying pop up a few times recently that no matter what your speed, forward is forward. And if you can take that mentality of whatever I achieve today, as long as I'm going in the right direction, then that is an achievement. You don't have to set high standards for yourself and feel feelings of stress and failure if you don't reach those standards. Just whatever happens in that day, like you said, you have achieved something. You started talking about the trip in that explanation, and we're now gonna eagerly move on to that and ask you a little bit more. So before we get into that, my next question is, what made you want to do such a long journey?
I don't know. I to be honest, kind of came into my head one day, and I was like, I wonder if anyone actually does this. And then I looked it up online and saw loads of people doing it, and I was like, wow, that's really good. And that was like 3 years ago. And so it's always been in my head. It's always been something I've really wanted to do. And then I got a job in a bike shop, and it's retail work. And I'm not complaining or anything, but the same thing over and over again every single day can get a bit repetitive. And every day I was like, I just need to leave. I just need to go on a trip.
Yeah.
And one day I just decided to do it. And I think so. It's probably the bike shop that kind of motivated me to do that. I think just the boredness of it, really.
Escape the grind, man. Yeah, like you said, I mean, I've been listening to you talking about doing this for 3 years, and you were talking about cycling to Japan and cycling to Norway and cycling to Asia. And to cycle to Asia and Japan, you're going to go through Afghanistan. And we're like, Josh, have you really thought this through? And must admit, for a long time, I've thought this was just one of Josh's outlandish ideas. But you went through and did it. And you mentioned the planning process briefly there. Was there anything that you particularly had to plan and look ahead for?
To be honest with you, I didn't plan in the slightest.
That sounds like Josh.
Everything was definitely last minute. I mean, I didn't even plan a route. I just that was kind of the whole attraction to it. And yeah, I started in Light in the middle of England, and then went down to Dover, and then got the ferry from Dover into France. And then bike from France through to Belgium, and then into Holland. So, yeah, it was quite an interesting tour. Not as long as I hoped it to be, but next tour is going to be longer, I think.
Oh, so we'll ask you about that later. Your future plans. My next question was what made you go through with the ride, but you kind of already covered that, talking about the grind of the bike shop and stuff.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So we'll move on to the actual journey itself. What were your biggest challenges during the journey?
I think, I did it by myself, so riding every single day by yourself is really great, but sometimes it got a bit lonely, I would say, and I realised that, humans are meant to be with other humans, and so that's probably the biggest challenge. When it was raining all day long, that was also another challenge, but, the weather is kind of there to be fought, really. Apart from that, there wasn't a lot of challenges. It was all really fun. There was a few times in a couple of kind of dodgy hostels, I think. Going into a hostel full of kind of people off there, not on drugs, that was quite sketchy. But apart from that, there wasn't a lot of challenges, I would say.
So for future journeys, would you maybe have a companion with you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I did it kind of a bit later on in the year, so I was actually expecting to meet other cyclists on the road.
Yeah.
So next time I would go a little bit earlier, maybe during the summer. That way, I'd meet more tourists, I think.
Mm-hmm. So was there anything in particular that you found out about yourself on the journey?
Well, there's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, doing something like that, you're by yourself with your own thoughts for a long time. I really kind of learned, the biggest thing I would say is what's bad thought process and what's good thought processes. Yeah. So, for example, if something goes wrong, if there was one point where my tent pole snapped, and I learned that saying things like, or thinking things like, why is this happening to me? Why does this stuff always happen to me? That's a really bad thought process, because that can just spiral down and down and down until you're getting really angry, you're losing it. And I think kind of thinking instead of why is this happening to me, think of what can I do to fix this issue. That was kind of a really big thing. Another thing was kind of holding grudges. Before I left, I had a massive grudge against my boss because we kind of finished. I kind of quit in a bad way, and it didn't go the greatest. And I was kind of thinking, oh, he's such an idiot. Why do you have to say this? Why do you have to do this? And then I just suddenly realized this thinking like that is really taking a lot of my energy.
Yeah.
I can literally feel it draining me when I'm on the road. So thinking like that is really bad. I think that's kind of another big thing I learned. 2 more things, I'm almost finished. One, I think I've been a bit racist my whole life, actually. I'll explain what I mean. So, I really learned that in every culture culture and in every country, there's always going to be good people and bad people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people kind of think of Switzerland as a really nice country, you know, lots of really nice, friendly people. But really, I met a really horrible person from Switzerland there. You know, and I was just sitting in my hospital bed and thinking, like, I should kind of realise that every country and culture has got its good and bad people in it.
Definitely, like, assholes don't discriminate. They're whatever religion, race, ethnicity, creed, political view. Like, if you're a dick, you're gonna be a dick, and there's no little pigeonhole that has more dicks than other pigeonholes. Like dicks are just spread, evenly across human race. Yeah. So what was your last point? Sorry, I had to cut in there.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
The last one, the most important one is, that me personally, I do have self-worth. You know, I'm not I generally believed before I left that I was a waste of human resources. You know, that's something that I really believed. And, going on this trip, I realized if I want to achieve something, I just need to work hard and I can do it. And I'm not worthless. I am worth something. I think that's probably the most important thing I took from the trip, I think.
Yeah, that's like some really valuable lessons in there, and it's great that you've had this experience of biking, but within that trip, you've learned things that you can take into the rest of your life. Like, I really like the first point about thinking constructively rather than negatively. Like, so many of us kind of are reactive rather than proactive. Something happens and we're like, oh my god, I can't deal with this, like, shit's going down. But instead, like, just take that step back and think, right, okay, this has happened to me. What skills and abilities have I got? What knowledge do I possess that I can apply to this problem and resolve it? And I think that was a great lesson to learn. I've got an image of you in like some field in France with your tent, and you're swearing at it and kicking it and stuff. But no, I think they were all smashing, man, and it's good that you've found so much in yourself in a relatively short period of time. Like, how long was it you were away for again?
Like a month and 3 days,
Yeah, so like that's a lot of things to kind of learn about yourself in a month, and especially the last one, like self-worth. I mean, people sometimes go their whole lives without finding a sense of self-worth, and for you to have found that in a month, like, obviously self-worth doesn't just like come like that and we keep it. It fluctuates. Like, sometimes we're feeling good about ourselves and sometimes not so much, but to know that you've found it once, and any time that might wane, you can always draw back on this experience of, remember when I was struggling in fields in Belgium and Holland and stuff, and I got through that and I achieved that all by myself. Like you said, you didn't have any companions with you, and I think that's incredible, man. So kudos for you for that. So you've completed the journey. You're somewhat of a veteran. You're more of a veteran than I am. I mean, I get a fucking sore bum sitting on a bike for more than like half an hour. So if anyone wanted to emulate your feat, what suggestions and tips would you give to them?
Number one, pick a date and do it. Don't kind of faffle about. Just get it done, because I had the idea to do it 3 years ago, and I put it off for a whole 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I was just like, sack this, I'm going to do it. So go with Nike and just do it. Like, that's my biggest tip, right? You don't have to worry about planning. All you need to do is just get a bike, get 2 pannier bags, and a tent. That's all you need. So that's the biggest thing. I would say, if you do manage to go on a trip, don't let what you think other people think of you change the way you would make your trip. Just do what you want to do. I set off with a plan of camping every night, no matter what the weather, living on the side of the road. But I just kind of realized halfway through, this is my trip, I can do whatever I want. So I stayed in hostels, and I had some really great experiences doing that. So don't think that you have to camp every night. That's kind of like a really important thing. $1,000 is all you need, £1,000, and that'll get you a long way.
Yeah.
Another really big thing is I set off doing big mileage, 80 miles a day, and that, took it out of me. And also I was spending a lot of money on food. So I think next trip I go on, I'm just going to do 50 miles a day, 40 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
That way it's not as long, you're not burning as much calories, and you're not spending as much money on food.
Yeah,
So,
and you get to enjoy the journey a bit more,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, you're in it a bit more and you can stop and take in things that you enjoy. And I also liked what you said at the beginning there. Just go for it. Don't plan. Like, I think sometimes we get caught in this this analysis paralysis, and we feel that we have to have every single outcome or mitigating factor like kind of prepared for, and sort of you need to think of all these factors. Like, you can think of all the outcomes in the world and life will throw you one that you didn't think of, and you've got to react and deal with it. So if there's something that you want to do, the best time to do it was yesterday, and the second and the second best time is do it today, do it now. And I think that's so true. And like you said, planning for 3 years, we're all making fun of you, saying, "Oh, he won't do it, or he's gonna get lost in Afghanistan or whatever." And like you said, you didn't let what people thought of you influence you. You're like, you know what, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna do it my way. If I have to quit my job to do that, I'm gonna do it because this is something that's really important to me. So again, you know, big respect to you for doing that, man.
I've got one more little bit of advice, and it's actually something I learned from your blog.
Shameless plug. Did not pay him for that, honest.
Honestly, you didn't pay me on it, I swear. It was actually very, very helpful. I've got to thank you for this. It was one of my bad days, and I was like, oh, this is rubbish, why am I doing this? And then I just looked on Instagram, and then all I saw was patience, positivity, and perseverance. And I can't tell you how much those 3 words really helped me throughout my trip. So patience, positivity, and perseverance. Those are 3 big words that you should hold on to if you do it.
Awesome. I actually remember doing that blog. And like with those blogs, I always say to myself, if I put it out there, and it doesn't matter how many likes and shares and all that kind of superficial stuff it gets, if it genuinely helps just one person for a minute, an hour, a day, a week, then that has made that blog post worth it. And for you to say that to me is fantastic, man. And I'm so glad that it helped you at a difficult time. And I'll give you the money for that plug a little bit later. Yeah. So we're nearly at the end. Cover the journey. So what I want to ask now is, what does the future hold for Josh?
Well, that's a big question. And I think Afghanistan and Tibet are still on the list. They're still there. You know, I did this trip to it was a tester trip, really. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do more. I'm gonna go further. So basically, I just need to save up some more money and just go on more trips. You know, that's kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah.
In terms of day-to-day life, if you want to know about that, DJing is definitely something up there. You know, I'm DJing again in 2 weeks. You know, it's something that's definitely going to be a big part of my life. So, yeah. So
you could be cycling to Holland again to go and play in some like crazy house festival, and then cycling back through Belgium, play at Tomorrowland, and then back to the UK all in a day's work. Who knows?
That'd be a pretty cheap way of doing
it. Yeah. So Josh, for anyone who's been inspired by your story, wants to get in touch with you, or wants to follow what you do, where can people find you on the old social media?
Well, I've got an Instagram page, but it's mostly pictures of old bikes, which is josh55.foster. So feel free to follow me there, but it'll just be me nerding about old bikes, really.
So that concludeth the interview. Josh, I'd like to thank you so much for taking your time out today to speak to the viewers. There's been many lessons in there for me, never mind, you know, anyone watching. I really hope that some of those key lessons kind of inspire people and permeate through to their way of thinking. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you again for spending time with us, Josh.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Yeah.